Welcome, everyone. My name is Tom Aminikharrazi, and this is a segment of Training for Champions. And what I'm going to cover today is some fundamentals that will help you in the field get some results as well as get some confidence in securities. One of the things that's very important is you have to understand securities is not a technical issue. It's about connecting to people and getting emotionally involved in the process, because if you look at most investing, it's tied to a goal. It's tied to a dream that needs to come true, like retirement or traveling or putting people through college. So it's an emotional process. And unfortunately, when we get into the security side of our business, we get too caught up in the logical side rather than the emotional side in developing the right habits. Because you guys heard this and heard me say this several times before. You see the old lady with millions of dollars in the bank making no interest, and it has nothing to do with the vehicle that she's in. It's because of her habits that got her there to build her security. And it works the same way in this business. So I'm going to go through some fundamentals today. Hopefully it'll help you out. But most importantly, you got to develop a confident voice. So let me go through. First step is we want to understand exactly how the market works and how people really connect money to their mentality. Years ago I was taught in a psychology book that you've been to a circus before and seen an elephant and a rider, and mentally I want you guys to think about this. You see a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pound elephant, and you see a 150 to 200 pound rider. And if that situation where the elephant wants to go a certain path, you'll notice no matter what the rider says, that elephant goes down that path. Well, in what I'm trying to tie it into is that elephant represents emotion. And when you're sitting down with people, you got to ask yourself across the kitchen table, are you talking to the elephant or the rider? The rider is logic. And it's very important that you have your right facts down, the logic side of it down. But if you don't connect to people, no matter what you say, it does not work. So very important that we have to connect to their emotional side and then back it up with the proper logic. So I'm going to go through that process and how we teach our teammates and our team in our office and how I connect across the kitchen table. And I just did this last night so I can give you guys a fresh example. I was talking to a teacher and a plumber. Husband's a plumber and wife's a teacher. And they're very fearful, especially right now with this last correction that just happened in the market. And after I was done, I noticed that they started really replacing some of that fear, that unknown, with some fundamentals and tied it into their goals and became a value investor. So let's go through this real quick. The first thing that we do is we always ask very simple fundamentals up front to tie into the elephant side or the emotional side of the individual. So we start with their goals, and you'll see that breakdown is top 5 financial goals that you want to accomplish. So after you do your presentation, somewhere in your presentation, near the end there, when you're starting to put a plan together or put a recommendation together, you want to make sure that you follow this process, because it starts with the emotion and then ends with the proper logic to back up what you're saying. So start with the top 5 financial goals and then break it down. So if you're sitting down with the client, John and Mary, let's start, before I get into the details, let's start with what's important about money to you. What's the top 5 financial goals that you want to accomplish? And start writing it down. Retire. Okay, retire when? What age? How much? Travel. Well, how many times a year you want to travel? What does it usually run you when you travel? See, these are important questions because now you're learning how to connect to somebody and put yourself in their shoes rather than try to data dump out of nervousness and try to make yourself look like the smartest guy in the world and give me your money. You guys have to understand that it's very important that you connect to their goals. So make sure that you get at least 5 goals. And then the second thing is getting their commitments. You'll notice on this input form that they're going to show on the video is that we always ask, pay yourself first. See, these goals are important, John and Mary, but if we don't have a habit of paying yourself first, none of these are all dreams. And we want to make these reality. So what is the first tool we use? Let's go through this together. We want to learn how to pay yourself first. First of all, let me ask you a question. John, what do you take home a month? You'll notice nobody knows how much they make, but they sure as heck know how much they bring home every month. And that's very important because that's the number that we use when we get their proper commitment. Second, Mary, what do you take home a month? Let's add that together and make sure. If you're not bad with math like me, I always pull my calculator out so I don't look like a dummy stumbling on getting the final answer. So it's very important you guys do that. So then once you total that out, you'll notice that on the sheet, you got the total monthly take home. Now, John and Mary, let's look at a commitment to your goals and dreams that's going to help you. Majority of our clients try to put away at least 10% of their income. So let's say if the total is $6,000 a month, 10% is $600 a month. So you write that in there, $600. Then we have a fortunate few that put away at least 15%, $900. And those are limited or fixed budget or just getting starting out. We do 5%, which is $300. Now, John, Mary, I really want you to think about this because this is not a monthly commitment you're giving to me. This is a monthly commitment that I'm going to take to make sure that we put a plan together to make these dreams and goals come true. Which one of these would you feel most comfortable with? And you circle it. And sometimes, and I'm telling you guys, I've done this several times, and I'm not going to do seminar talk here. I always look at the wife when I'm doing this because sometimes, guys, you guys know what I'm talking about, our egos get in and we can do as much as possible. Make sure you pay attention to both of them and they're both in agreement to the commitment. And I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to step back real quick and get into the presentation sides, folks. But I'll say, John, Mary, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. If I'm asking you 4 or 5 times about your commitment, I want a real commitment from you so I can put a real plan together. And remember, this is money that you're putting aside. We're going to start your emergency, your short-term accounts, put some towards wealth building, maybe some towards protecting. So I want to make sure that this number is comfortable. So if they both said 600 and says, right now, John and Mary, if I had you write a check out for 600 a month, could you comfortably put that away? And you'll notice they hesitate. Say, listen, let's start with baby steps. What's comfortable out of this that we can put away? Now you'll notice you'll get a commitment that they can really focus on and commit to. So it might not be 600 a month. It might not be 10%. It might be 300. It's better than starting the other way and say, what's the minimum for mutual funds? $25 and try to build it up. That never works. And you have to really be honest with them because here's the rule of thumb that I make sure that all our agents pay attention to. If their average car payment is $500 a month, you can't tell me they can't put $500 a month towards their future. Use that as a benchmark. So if they're spending $500, $600, $700 a month in car payments, and they have a decent amount of take-home income, they can put away $300, $400, $500 a month. So make sure, and then circle that amount off to the side of what they're committed to, because now that we get into breaking it down, you have a proper commitment, something to work with, something to give a recommendation on. So let's just say it's $600 a month and they're comfortable with that. So now we go to the basics of investing brochure and break down. If you guys notice that, and going back to the basics of investing, the first area from the cash cycle, debt cycle, the first area we work with is learn how to invest and pay yourself first. Now we'll go through that real quick. Also debt elimination and also ensuring their income. But now you have a monthly budget that you can break down and set their plan up properly. And that's going to be very important. That's a confident voice. That's something, a tool that you can use to properly set up their plan. So let's go through this real quick. Now that you have $600 a month, how do you break it down? Well, if they have no insurance, obviously $600 a month in the next few months if something happens is not going to financially secure their situation. So you want to come up with a fundamental, a triplicate of choice on insurance protection, then take the difference and take that difference and break it down to the 3 fundamental accounts. And you'll notice that we're kind of conservative in our approach coming up front, and I tell that to my clients. I say, listen, this breakdown for investing is going to be a little bit on the conservative side, but it's okay because I want to build up a nest egg of an emergency fund. Then we can come back and change this, put more towards wealth building or more towards short term after we have a foundation of an emergency fund. And so you'll notice it says 50% of that commitment goes to the emergency fund, 25% towards the short term, 25% to the wealth building. And you want to get them started on that because let's face it, folks, we're coming across kitchen tables. I don't care. I've seen doctors just recently or truck drivers. Nobody has emergency money saved up. And we got to get that mindset of building up that slush fund, that emergency. So then in drastic situations, they don't start cashing out their retirement in their short-term accounts and pay huge penalties or losses to take their money out. So be very cognizant of that. Pay attention. If they don't have a lot saved up, then take this approach. If they have 20, 30, 40,000, they have 5-6 months of expenses put into a bank account, they already have that put away for emergency, then you're right. You can change up the mixture and get more aggressive towards their retirement. But majority of the people we sit down with, we got to get them started. So we have to take baby steps. So that's going to be a very important part of what we do, as well as understanding the emergency, short-term wealth building. You guys have to understand how to use these tools. Because last night, here's a great example. I had a client ask me, we have $50,000 we want to put away, Tom. I said, okay, the first question I got to ask you is, what's your objective? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, when do you plan to dip into this money? Because I'm going to give you the mindset. The first step is if you plan to dip into this money 0 to 2 years, I don't care what return you're trying to get, we're going to put it into the emergency account because we don't know when you're going to need it. If it's something you're going to dip into 3 to 5 years, we're going to put it into the short-term account. And if it's anything long-term towards retirement, it goes into the wealth building account. So I had to break that down, and then when we're finally done, we noticed out of their $50,000, $20,000 that they want to dip into in the next 0 to 2 years, so we put an emergency. The other amount, they didn't want to put away the other $30,000 into retirement accounts because we had a few retirement accounts for them. They needed to dip into it for college. They needed to dip into it for another purchase in another 3 years. That's when we put it into the short-term account. So folks, pay attention to that. You want to match people's objective to the investment objective. Do not sell on performance. Do not sell on, well, the market's right, it's at the bottom. Look, you don't have a crystal ball, and neither do they. So it's very important when you stick to this fundamental, you never get caught off guard with a correction in the market. And that's the confident voice that we need to have across the kitchen table. Being solid in our approach, being solid in the way we recommend based on their objectives and sticking to it. At the end of the day, we do not teach how to speculate with their money, how to gamble. It's about having the proper habits, paying themselves first, making sure that their investments match their objective, and sticking to that approach and getting a habit of constantly paying themselves on a monthly basis. So hopefully that helped you out, folks. And most importantly, you have to understand, keep it simple, connect to them, and make sure you teach them the right habits. Thank you very much.